More than 130 business and government leaders converged on the Stratton Mountain Base Lodge Wednesday, May 24th, for a day-long conference on the southern Vermont economy. The event highlighted the growing collaborations between Bennington and Windham counties and implementing a regional approach to strengthening the region's economy. Those attending heard from a variety of speakers during their morning session: the Secretary of the state's Agency of Commerce, a group which included a Vice President of the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, and a senior economist from the state's Department of Labor. Their comments reflected a range of topics from employment and workforce trends, education, and housing. Regional, state, and national economic data were compared. The economy of southern Vermont in many ways mirrors national trends in terms of rural areas struggling to grow at the same pace as more urbanized ones. The demographic challenges were often highlighted as one of the threats to the growth of the area's economy, with an aging workforce and a lack of growth in the numbers of younger generations. But it's a multifaceted problem, said Kevin Stapleton, a senior economist with the Vermont Department of Labor.
Problem that really needs a holistic approach because it's beyond one simple solution. If we got housing affordability solved, we still need young people to move into that housing. If we get the demographics problem solved, we still need to have the talent and workforce that we need. I don't see it as a single issue, but really just a whole host of issues that nationwide is facing as well that we need to find a way to address.
The Bennington County Regional Commission and the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation have been forging a close working relationship, which was capped off by an announcement last month of the approval of an economic development plan and a proposal to seek federal funding for a two-county comprehensive economic development strategy, or CEDS. According to the website of the U.S. Economic Development Administration, a branch of the Federal Department of Commerce, a CEDS is a strategy-driven plan for regional economic development. The CEDS provides a vehicle for individuals, organizations, local governments, institutes of learning, and private industry to engage together and debate about what capacity-building efforts would best serve economic development in the region. A grant application totaling $160,000 made up of federal and local funds is in the works, said Bill Colvin of the Bennington County Regional Commission.
The CEDS, once completed and accepted by the EDA, will also put the region into a priority funding process for EDA funding for projects. They'll do a couple of things. One, there will be along the way opportunities to begin to implement things strategically. We'll be able to identify opportunities that we can act on even as we're building out the full strategic plan. I think that's an important part of the planning. And the fact that we're building a network of people with broader perspectives, with additional experiences, I think will help to identify where those strategic opportunities to act on quickly. We have over 130 people at an inaugural conference that are interested in talking about how do we bring additional resources to economic development efforts, where are the strategic opportunities to partner across southern Vermont, and there beginning to be a recognition that these little siloed efforts of each community or organization going on its own is probably not the best bang for the buck. So I think the fact that we have 130 plus people showing up at a first ever event is a great sign.
The original seed of the two-county regional collaboration was planted back in 2007 with the creation of the Southeastern Vermont Development Strategies, or SEVEDS, which began as a joint effort between the towns of Wilmington, Dover, and Whitingham to bring improved broadband service to their area. In 2015, the state legislature endorsed the creation of the Southern Vermont Economic Zone and commissioned a report on the Windham-Bennington economic picture. That report was created by a committee chaired by Weston resident Wayne Granquist, who was at the Stratton Conference.
I think we're making progress. I think it's a mistake to think that these things happen quickly. We're obviously we're connected to long-term trends, both nationally and in the state of Vermont. We're not going to turn around the aging issue instantaneously, and we're not going to reverse the decline in population quickly. But I think that the encouraging thing to me is, and today is a good example, we're starting to realize that we need to be more comprehensive. We can't have 26, as I counted them, organizations in this area all working without connecting to each other on economic development and marketing. We need to start to understand the connection between tourism, economic development, and job growth. We haven't figured that out yet. And we need to break down the parochialism. And I'm concerned about that part of the equation. towns and organizations seem to be desirous of moving on their own as opposed to joining up with others. I'm hopeful that things like this summit today will start to peel away the differences that cause that and begin to bring us more together and more understanding of the need for scale. We're not going to attract resources, and we're not going to get companies and jobs connected to colleges, et cetera, without understanding it's not an individual town's activity. It's got to be comprehensive. And it seems to me that the two counties are a logical connection, which is what the legislature thought when they created the zone back in 2015. So, short answer is I'm encouraged, and optimistic, but not unrealistic.
Laura Sibilia, an independent representative from Dover and also a director with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, spoke to the question of overcoming obstacles to implement some of the ideas contained in the plan.
The demographics are real, and they're very challenging. The part I think that concerns me the most and really pushes me on within this is the demographics are not a situation that is just happening in Southern Vermont. And so this requires our best and our brightest to come together and be able to act, because there are other people in this country that are trying to do the same thing. Our economy is changing in our country, and rural America is changing, including rural Vermont. I do think that we have some advantages here that we can take advantage of if we're able to come together and do this work. And so that gives me some hope.
The afternoon saw the forum breaking out into smaller discussion groups on various topics, followed by a panel discussion. The day was capped off by a reception with Governor Phil Scott and a recognition of outstanding young professionals. Matt Harrington, the executive director of the Bennington Area Chamber of Commerce, said a lot of progress has been made, and this week's summit was another milestone.
This summit is a great barometer of the interest that people are having in, and I think Laura Sibilia and a couple other people mentioned it in the beginning of the presentation. I don't think we could have imagined this 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I was happy that they brought up the Shires of Vermont Summit as part of that catalyst. I think there have been a lot of people working very, very hard over the last 10 years and 5 years and 2 years, including the chamber, to kind of bring all these entities together. And we know that it takes a full community. So you'll see that the hospital is here. You'll see that economic drivers were here. You'll see that legislators were here. You'll see that business leaders were here. And it's going to take all of us to kind of put our heads together. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of this summit. Just even the best stuff comes out of side conversations when there's a coffee break. So I'm very excited to see the future.
For the GNAT TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.